Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. And of course, today is a very significant date and transition for the Donald Trump administration, which, to be honest, doesn't really look good for the future of humanity. Let's just get right into it, because this concerning news is, of course, Donald Trump ousting former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and replacing him with the current CIA chief, Mike Pompeo. And according to many outlets, Tillerson was notified of his official termination from Donald Trump's tweet this morning. Of course, this move demonstrates a hard shift from the Trump administration favoring more hard military power. Now, of course, not everyone sees it the same way, and we have counter-arguments from supposed independent news organizations who are saying that Trump actually fired an establishment Tillerson, that now a woman will be in charge of the CIA for the first time ever, which allegedly proves that Trump is not a misogynist, and that this move will, quote, energize Trump's base as it reflects to another move away from the establishment figures being in control of the administration. Now, in my opinion, those assessments are very inaccurate, predominantly because it's been an establishment wet dream by the neoconservatives to launch a conflict with Iran, which even CNBC announced today that Donald Trump's latest move is bad news for Iran, which Pompeo actually directly compared Iran to ISIS. Which is interesting because Iran, mainly a Shiite state, has been fighting the Sunni radical Islamic terrorist ISIS inside of Syria for years now and still continues to battle them. And yet, Pompeo still says that Iran is the largest sponsor of terrorism all around the world. While, of course, admittedly, Israel, the United States, and Saudi Arabia were the ones who were training and arming these radical Islamic terrorists inside of Syria, point which even the original author of this piece agreed with back in November, but yet failed to mention in his article today. Now, of course, Pompeo is a strong supporter of Israel and a very fierce critic of Iran, which, according to many news outlets, was one of the key reasons why Rex Tillerson, the former Secretary of State, was ousted from the White House because of their disagreement on Iran. And when the former CEO of Exxon has a softer policy on Iran than the US president, I think there's a lot of room for concern there, especially from the warnings we got a few weeks ago from the former chief of staff under the Bush administration that was a major proponent in starting the Iraq war, and now is warning everyone the same push for war that happened with Iraq is happening right now with Iran. And according to the same author and news outlet, it was this same CIA director, according to their source, Roger Stone, that it was Mike Pompeo that was responsible for keeping secret very important JFK files that Donald Trump wanted to release to the public. The same source that works for that very news organization that in April of 2017 said that the CIA director, Mike Pompeo, must resign because, quote, he was conned by the neocon careerist at the CIA. And we're not only getting disinformation from the independent media, but we're also getting it from the mainstream media that is now trying to say that this latest move by Donald Trump was done because Tillerson was aggressive towards Russia. And people need to remember, Pompeo, who just replaced him, was the same Republican demanding a greater confrontation with Putin and mocked Obama for being too soft on Russia, while the man who was just ousted, Tillerson, actually received one of the highest honors in Russia, with Vladimir Putin giving him an Order of Friendship award all the way back in 2013. And the mainstream media is getting it totally wrong here, because we could only expect Pompeo to be more aggressive and fierce against Russia now. And of course, there's other reasons to worry about Pompeo, which even the Washington Post said that as the CIA director, he was waging a war on truth tellers like WikiLeaks and other whistleblowers. He officially rejects the notion of a deep state, which Donald Trump used as a very galvanizing buzzword during his presidential election, and also as president to galvanize his base against the establishment. And now he's basically appointing the uber neocon establishment and saying that they're going to be doing a fantastic job. Now, with escalating tensions with Russia and the United States, especially with all the developments happening in Syria right now, where just recently US forces dropped bombs and killed dozens of Russian mercenaries in that country, directly fighting each other in their global proxy war that's happening right now, to the point where we are right now with just 9 hours ago, the Russian military threatening action against the United States in Syria, saying that they have reliable information about a false flag attack with chemical weapons that will happen there, and how now they will respond to a US strike on Syria when the lives of Russian servicemen are being threatened. With even tensions rising with the United Kingdom and Russia, as we're seeing right now, involving around the Russian spy scandal, that now clearly look like they will escalate because of Donald Trump's latest actions. And it's not just Russia and Iran that we have to worry about, it's also China, which Pompeo says is a greater threat to the United States than Russia actually, especially in the long term. And with Donald Trump as of today demanding broader tariffs against China, and of course, we should only expect more tension with China, which has been escalating within the last few years. Now let's talk about this woman that will be replacing Pompeo and is the first woman in the history of the CIA to run the covert organization. And she's a torturer. Of course, a career CIA employee that once ran an agency prison in Thailand where waterboarding was used as an extreme interrogation measure. You know, just a black site for extrajudicial torture, being of course a key part of the torture program, and illegally trying to cover it up, taking part in of course an illegal destruction of evidence, of course destroying all videotapes and documentation of their brutal interrogations, to the point where she might not even be able to travel to the European Union, where she is facing charges of these actions by the German federal public prosecutor. But hey, at least she's a woman. And with these two appointments, I think we could only expect more bad news for human rights all over the world. The continuation of the same neoconservative doctrine that has been followed by George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and now Donald Trump, creating conflicts that will never end. But hey, at least we don't have floundering Hillary Clinton as president, right? What do you honestly think? Let me know in the comment section below. I always answer comments, especially within the first hour that a video is released. Of course, all the sources that we mentioned in this video will be in our Steemit link, which of course I will post on my Twitter account and in the comment section of this video as well. So, as we're being failed by independent media and also the mainstream media that just distracts us and protects powerful pedophiles that for 40 years have been abusing almost 1,000 women, making them child sex slaves, remember, never put anyone above yourself. Don't trust anyone. Don't trust me. Do your own homework. Do your own research. And never, ever let your principles and morals waver in exchange for fame, notoriety, or someone in authority that you're bowing down to. Question everything. I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.
Whenever there are riots anywhere in the world, Luke is there on the ground.
Oh shit, shit. Oh shit.
Ah, I'm a fucking journalist, you motherfucker!
Immediately disperse. You must leave the immediate vicinity.
When politicians need a reality check, he faces them and confronts them head on.
What happens when you worship Moloch at the Bohemian Grove?
Well, when there's an injustice in the world, we expose it. They also talk about some hippy-dippy stuff like mushrooms, DMT, acid, quantum physics, consciousness, and seeking solutions to the problems that we face. We travel the world, question authority, stand up for our rights, and fight back against the elite with the greatest weapon humanity has ever had in history, a video camera. We are fully funded by you and only you. No one else tells us what to do because together
we are change.
New videos every Sunday through Thursday. Subscribe.